try reading exercise number 1 by yourself. Give yourself 2 minutes to complete this one, and be sure to read the passage information that is given to you before the passage actually begins. Let's go through the solutions. What is Hamilton's primary argument against the objection detailed in this passage? A. The Senate has been given too much power. B. The objection is too vague to warrant an exact answer. C. Impeachment limits the president's power. Or D. Changing the system would cause inconvenience. Now, one thing you'll have to be careful about in this is that they'll use some keywords to try and throw you off, and they'll give you some answers that look like the right answers, but they're actually not. So let's see what's happening in this passage itself. Here in this paper, Hamilton first actually outlines the objections here, right? This is where he actually talks about the actual objections that other members are making to the Senate being a court of impeachments. So here he outlines the objection, and then here he responds to the objection. So the first paragraph is outlining the objections that he has heard, and the second paragraph is sort of rebutting it or giving a response to those objections, right? So here, the first answer is the Senate has been given too much power. Well, that actually is the objection itself, right? It's not asking for the objection. It's asking for the primary argument against the objection. So our answer is not going to be the objection itself, right? So the Senate is given too much power, and that actually comes from here, undue accumulation of power in that body. That's where A comes from. So this is where letter choice A comes from. So that's not going to be our right answer. Is it that the objection is too vague to warrant an exact answer? Yes, this is the correct answer here. B is our correct answer because he immediately says after the first paragraph, in the first sentence of the second paragraph, to an objection so little precise in itself, it is not easy to find a very precise answer. And forgive my terrible underlining, but this is exactly what he's saying. He states the objection and then he immediately responds and says, well, the objection itself is not very precise and that it's vague, it's not succinct, it's not precise, and it's not easy to find a precise answer. So if the objection is too vague, you're not going to get an exact answer. You're going to get a vague answer, really. So B is our correct answer. Let's look at the other choices as well. Answer choice C, impeachment limits the president's power. In this instance, there's nothing here that Hamilton says that impeachment is going to limit the presidential power, right? All it's saying is that all he's saying is what criteria do we have to determine what's going to give the Senate too much or too little power? Is it going to be not more safe to dismiss it, entirely, and to examine each power by itself? So he doesn't make any statement about the impeachment limiting the president's power, right? That's not what he's saying. He's not saying anything like that at all. So it's not his primary argument at all. So that's out of the question here. In fact, if anything, the first paragraph actually tells you that it will give a decided predominancy to senatorial influence. Now, this is not Hamilton saying it. It's the objectors saying it. It's the objectors from the Senate that would be saying something like this. It's not Hamilton himself that's saying it. So C is just completely incorrect. And D, changing the system would cause inconvenience, right? Is that his primary argument? This is the key word, primary argument. You'll see this word inconvenience here show up over here as well. Just because the word showed up there does not mean that that is the correct answer, where it may be deposited with most advantage and least inconvenience. So he's not saying that changing the system would cause inconvenience. He's saying it's better to actually put the power and the advantage where it would cause least inconvenience. Number 2, as used in line 10, the word degree most nearly means a measure of temperature, an academic rank, a measure of angle, or amount. So the word degree actually shows up here. Let's go ahead and read the sentence here and see what's going on. And I'm going to read from here, and I will read all the way till here. Where is the measure or criterion to which we can appeal for determining what will give the Senate too much, too little, or barely the proper degree of influence? Now, you could probably read this and understand exactly what he is talking about. The correct answer in this instance is D, amount. And what we can do is just replace this word degree with the word amount and see if it makes sense. So let's read that now. Where is the measure or criterion to which we can appeal for determining what will give the Senate too much, too little, or barely the proper amount of influence? And that makes sense, so D checks out. But just to be sure, let's check the other ones. Is it talking about measuring temperature? No, not at all. It's not. There's nothing here that indicates it's talking about measuring temperature. Is it talking about some kind of an academic rank, like a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD even? No, not at all. It's not talking about academic rank at all. And it's not talking about the measure of an angle either, right? There's nothing mathematical happening here at all. All it's talking about, the degree or the amount or the extent of the influence that it is referring to.